May 27, 1940, 7:42 a.m., Lepinette, France. Captain Jack Churchill crouches behind a stone wall. He's watching 5 German soldiers walk toward him through morning fog. Distance, 80 yards. The Wehrmacht has crushed Poland in 36 days. Now they're tearing through France at 40 miles per day. The entire British Expeditionary Force is running for Dunkirk. Churchill's company lost 11 men in the past 72 hours. British soldiers are throwing away rifles just to run faster, burning documents in ditches. The retreat has become a rout. But Jack Churchill is not running. He's standing perfectly still, holding a 6-foot English longbow, 140 pounds of draw weight, the same weapon used at Agincourt in 1415. The German patrol is now 50 yards away. The sergeant leading them is careful, experienced, probably fought through Poland, scanning for threats, rifles, machine guns, grenades. He never thinks to look for a medieval weapon. Churchill draws the bowstring back to his ear. The bow creaks under 140 pounds of tension. His fingers find the anchor point, the same position he's used 10,000 times, but never with a human target. He releases. The arrow flies at 225 feet per second. The German sergeant drops without a sound, the cloth-yard arrow buried in his chest, so deep it exits his back. The other 4 Germans freeze, confused. Their sergeant just died. No gunshot, no explosion, just collapsed. They look around frantically, trying to identify the threat. Churchill is already knocking his second arrow. 30 seconds later, 2 more Germans are down. The remaining 2 run. Churchill doesn't chase them. He calmly walks over to retrieve his arrows, wipes them clean on the dead sergeant's uniform, returns them to his quiver. Behind him, his men are staring. "Sir," one says quietly, "you just killed 3 Germans with a fucking bow and arrow." Churchill looks at him. "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed," he says, then points to the Scottish broadsword strapped to his back. "I also brought that." This is May 27, 1940, the first confirmed longbow kill in combat since 1644. And it's just the beginning, because over the next 5 years, Jack Churchill will kill Germans with arrows, swords, and bagpipes, lead 43 commando raids, capture 42 enemy soldiers, personally with his sword, survive being shot, blown up, and captured twice, escape from a Nazi POW camp by walking 150 miles through occupied territory, play bagpipes while leading beach assaults, single-handedly capture a German garrison with 50 men using only his sword. His fellow officers will call him insane. The Germans will put a 5,000 Reichsmark bounty on him. The War Office will have no idea what to do with him. But by 1945, Jack Churchill will have the most confirmed kills of any British commando officer, while carrying weapons from the 14th century. This is not a story about military tactics. This is not a story about heroism. This is a story about one absolutely deranged British officer who decided that if he was going to war, he was going to do it properly, with a sword, a bow, and bagpipes. Because as Churchill himself said, any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. And Jack Churchill was always properly dressed. To understand Mad Jack Churchill, you have to understand that he wasn't born crazy. He was made crazy by peacetime. Born in 1906, Hong Kong, British colonial family. Father was a civil engineer. Mother wanted him to be a doctor. Churchill wanted adventure. At age 18, he enrolled at Sandhurst, the Royal Military Academy, training to be an army officer. He graduated in 1926, age 20, commissioned as second lieutenant, Manchester Regiment, posted to Burma, and he hated it. Not the combat. There was no combat. Peacetime British India was mind-numbing bureaucracy, parade drills, paperwork, officers' club dinners, colonial garrison duty where nothing ever happened. Churchill spent 10 years in Burma, 10 years of administrative tedium, inspecting barracks, filing reports, attending ceremonies. He was dying inside. So in 1936, at age 30, Churchill quit the army, just resigned, walked away from a military career, because peacetime soldiering bored him to suicide. What do you do when you quit the army because it's too boring? You become an adventurer. Churchill moved to Kenya, got a job as a newspaper editor in Nairobi. But journalism wasn't exciting enough. So he learned archery, practiced obsessively, 8 hours a day, built his own longbow, traditional English yew, 140-pound draw weight, the same design used at Agincourt. He got so good that in 1939 he represented Great Britain at the World Archery Championships, Oslo, Norway. Finished 26th out of 63 competitors. Not a champion, but good enough to put an arrow through a playing card at 50 yards. He also learned bagpipes, taught himself. Nobody knows why. Because Jack Churchill did things because they seemed interesting. He bought a Scottish broadsword at an antique shop, basket-hilted claymore, the kind used by Highland clans in the 1700s, learned to fight with it, studied medieval swordsmanship manuals, practiced against targets. He rode motorcycles 1,500 miles across India, once crashed into a water buffalo, broke 3 ribs, got back on the motorcycle and kept going. He appeared in films as an extra, playing an archer, playing a bagpiper, small role in The Thief of Baghdad, 1940. He was living the life he wanted, adventure, novelty, no bureaucracy. Then September 1939 happened. Germany invaded Poland. Britain declared war. And Jack Churchill immediately re-enlisted. Not because he was patriotic, because war meant excitement. He rejoined the Manchester Regiment. But he didn't rejoin as a normal officer. He brought his longbow. He brought his broadsword. He brought his bagpipes. His commanding officer stared at him. "Captain Churchill, those items are not standard issue." "Neither am I, sir," Churchill replied. "You can't bring medieval weapons to war." "Why not?" The CO had no answer. There was no regulation against it, because nobody had ever been insane enough to try. Churchill reported to his unit carrying 1 6-foot longbow, 23 arrows, 1 Scottish broadsword, 1 set of Highland bagpipes, standard issue Webley revolver, which he almost never used. His fellow officers thought he was mentally unstable. His men thought he was a joke. The War Office had no idea what to do with him, so they assigned him to regular infantry. Figured he'd get killed quickly. Problem solved. They were very wrong, because Jack Churchill wasn't crazy. He understood something about warfare that the military establishment had forgotten. War isn't just about killing efficiently. War is about psychology. War is about fear. A German soldier facing a rifle knew what to expect. He'd trained against rifles. He understood the threat. But a German soldier facing a screaming madman with a sword and bagpipes? No training for that. His brain would freeze for a critical second, trying to process what he was seeing, and in combat, 1 second of hesitation meant death. Churchill's medieval weapons weren't just affectations, they were psychological warfare. The longbow killed silently, no muzzle flash, no gunshot. Enemy soldiers would see their comrade drop dead and have no idea where the threat came from. The sword was even more effective, because when you see a man charging at you with a broadsword screaming like a Highland warrior, your modern military training fails, your brain reverts to primal fear, and you make mistakes, fatal mistakes. Churchill had figured out that medieval weapons were more effective than modern ones in specific situations. Close quarters combat, raids, ambushes, psychological shock. The British Army didn't understand this, but they were about to learn. Because in 1940, Churchill was assigned to Commando training, and that's where his legend began, May 27, 1940, returning to that stone wall in Lepinette. Churchill has just killed 3 German soldiers with arrows. His company commander, Major Henderson, arrives. "Churchill, what the hell happened?" "Encountered a German patrol, sir." "Where are they?" Churchill points to 3 bodies. Henderson walks over, sees the arrows. "Jesus Christ, Jack. Did you—" "Yes, sir." "With a bow and arrow?" "Correct, sir." Henderson stares at the corpses, then at Churchill, then back at the corpses. "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen." "It worked, sir." "That's not the point." "What is the point, sir?" Henderson can't answer, because Churchill is right. It worked. 3 German soldiers are dead, 0 British casualties, 0 ammunition expended, tactically flawless, just completely insane. "The Germans have 500 men in this area," Henderson says. "We need to pull back to Dunkirk." "Sir, I recommend we harass their advance instead." Harass them with what? We have 60 men and limited ammunition. I have 23 arrows, sir. You want to fight the Wehrmacht with a bow? And this, sir. Churchill pats his broadsword. Henderson realizes Churchill is serious. Completely serious. Fine, Henderson says. You want to play medieval knight? Go ahead. But if you get my men killed, I'm putting you up for court-martial. Understood, sir. Over the next 48 hours, Churchill turns the retreat into a nightmare for German scouts. His tactic is simple. Small unit ambushes. 3-4 men. Hidden positions. Wait for German patrols. Churchill uses the longbow from 100-200 yards. Silent kills. The Germans never know where the shots come from. By the time they organize a response, Churchill's team has moved. In 48 hours, Churchill's unit kills 14 German soldiers. 0 British casualties. Slows the German advance by 6 hours. Enough time for 700 British soldiers to reach Dunkirk. Churchill is the last British soldier off the beach. He's carrying his bow, his sword, his bagpipes, and he's playing Will Ye No Come Back Again while boarding the evacuation ship, under German artillery fire. The Navy officer coordinating evacuation stares at him. Are you fucking insane? Churchill smiles. Probably, Commander. Back in England, Churchill's actions at Dunkirk come to the attention of a new organization. Combined Operations Headquarters. They're forming specialized units. Commandos. Small teams for raids behind enemy lines. Volunteers only. High casualty rate expected. Unconventional tactics encouraged. It's perfect for Churchill. He volunteers immediately. In July 1940, he's assigned to No. 3 Commando, training base in Scotland. The training is brutal. 30-mile forced marches, night navigation, close quarters combat, small unit tactics, demolitions, amphibious assaults. Churchill excels at everything, except firearms training. He refuses to use modern weapons unless absolutely necessary. His instructors are furious. Churchill, you can't storm a German position with a sword. Why not? Because you'll be shot. Not if I'm faster than they can aim. The instructor gives up. Because Churchill is right again. In close quarters, a sword is faster than a rifle. A rifle needs to be aimed, fired, cycled. A sword just needs momentum. And Churchill can close 20 yards in 4 seconds, faster than most men can acquire a target and fire. By December 1940, Churchill has been promoted to captain, second in command of No. 3 Commando. He's led 7 small raids on the Norwegian coast, destroyed 3 German supply depots, killed 12 enemy soldiers, captured 5 prisoners, 0 casualties among his men. The War Office still thinks he's crazy, but they can't argue with results. Then in November 1941, the big mission arrives. Operation Archery, full-scale commando assault on Vågsøy Island, Norway, German garrison, 150 soldiers, coastal artillery, fish oil factories producing glycerin for explosives. Strategic target. Churchill requests permission to lead the first wave. Permission granted. Churchill requests permission to carry his sword and play his bagpipes during the assault. Multiple senior officers question his sanity. Permission granted anyway, because by now, everyone knows. Mad Jack Churchill gets results, no matter how insane his methods. December 27, 1941, 8:48 a.m., Moløy Island, Norway. Churchill stands in the bow of a landing craft, fully exposed to enemy fire. His men are crouched behind steel gunwales. Sensibly, Churchill is standing upright, playing bagpipes. The March of the Cameron Men, the loudest Scottish war song, being played on a beach in Nazi-occupied Norway, while Royal Navy cruisers bombard German positions, while RAF bombers drop smoke canisters, while 105 commandos prepare to storm ashore. The Germans in the coastal battery hear the bagpipes. Can't believe what they're hearing. They've been trained to fight soldiers with rifles, not madmen with musical instruments. The landing craft ramp drops. Churchill finishes the tune, sets down the bagpipes, pulls a grenade, throws it at the nearest German bunker, draws his broadsword, and charges up the beach screaming, "Commando!" His men surge forward behind him, Thompson submachine guns firing, grenades exploding. But Churchill is in front, sword raised, running straight at German machine gun nests. The psychological effect is devastating. German soldiers have trained for conventional warfare. They know how to respond to rifles, artillery, grenades. They have no training for a 35-year-old British officer charging at them with a medieval sword while screaming like a berserker. Their brains freeze. Critical seconds of hesitation. Churchill covers 50 yards in 8 seconds, reaches the first bunker. A German soldier appears in the doorway. MP-40 submachine gun. He starts to raise it. Churchill's sword takes his arm off at the elbow. One swing. Clean cut. The soldier drops, screaming. Churchill kicks him aside, throws a grenade into the bunker, moves to the next position. His men are following, but struggling to keep up. Churchill is moving like a man possessed. Bunker to bunker, position to position. The sword in constant motion, cutting, slashing, blocking. He's not using it like a modern soldier. He's using it like a medieval knight. Trained techniques, practiced movements, centuries-old swordsmanship, and it's devastatingly effective. At one point, Churchill corners 3 German soldiers in a trench. They have rifles. He has a sword. The first German tries to shoot. Churchill deflects the barrel with his blade. The shot goes wild. Churchill's return stroke opens the man's throat. The second German drops his rifle, tries to surrender. Churchill accepts, knocks him unconscious with the pommel, moves on. The third German runs. Churchill lets him go. He's not here to massacre. He's here to complete the objective. The assault on Molloy Island takes 10 minutes. 4 coastal artillery guns destroyed. Anti-aircraft battery captured. German commander taken prisoner. 15 soldiers captured. 23 killed. British casualties. 3 wounded. 0 dead. Churchill receives a radio message. The main assault on Vogsoy town is meeting heavy resistance. Street fighting. British casualties mounting. Churchill commandeers a landing craft. Takes his men across the strait. Arrives to chaos. German snipers in windows. Machine guns covering streets. British commandos pinned down. Churchill doesn't hesitate. He leads a flanking attack down a side street. Personally leading. Sword in one hand. Grenade in the other. They hit a German machine gun position from the side. Churchill throws the grenade. Waits for detonation. Charges in with sword. 3 Germans inside. All wounded from the grenade. Churchill could shoot them. Instead, he accepts their surrender. Leaves them for the following troops. Keeps moving. Block by block. Building by building. Churchill's team clears 14 German positions in 35 minutes. Kills 8 German soldiers. Captures 11. 0 British casualties. At one point, Churchill and Corporal George Herbert are pinned down by a German sniper. Second floor window. Good position. Every time they move, shots ring out. "Sir, we need to call for support," Herbert says. "No time," Churchill says. "What are you going to do?" "Improvise." Churchill pulls out his bagpipes. Herbert stares at him. "Sir, this is not the time." Churchill starts playing. Loud. The same song from the beach. The March of the Cameron Men. The German sniper is confused, distracted, trying to understand what's happening. Churchill keeps playing, walking toward the building, in the open, completely exposed. The sniper fires twice, misses, because his brain is struggling to process this. Churchill reaches the building entrance, sets down the bagpipes, throws 2 grenades through the window. Explosions. Silence. Herbert runs up. "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." "It worked," Churchill says. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't." By noon, Vogsoy is secure. The fish oil factories are destroyed. 98 German soldiers killed. 98 captured. British casualties. 17 dead. 53 wounded. Churchill personally accounted for. 3 killed in combat. 15 captured. Multiple positions destroyed. 0 casualties in his immediate unit. His commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel John Durnford Slater, files a report. Captain Churchill displayed exceptional courage and leadership. His unconventional methods proved highly effective. However, his insistence on carrying medieval weapons raises serious questions about his psychological state. Churchill doesn't care. Operation Archery is a success. He's proven his methods work. And he's just getting started. September 1943. Salerno, Italy. Allied invasion of mainland Italy. The landing is a disaster. German artillery hammering the beaches. Panzers counterattacking. American and British troops pinned down. Number 2 Commando is taking heavy casualties. The plan was simple. Land north of Salerno, capture high ground overlooking German positions, disrupt enemy communications. The reality is different. German resistance is fierce, organized, brutal. Churchill's unit is tasked with capturing a strategic hill, designated Point 270. The Germans have it fortified. Machine guns, mortars, clear fields of fire. The hill is a death trap. Previous attacks have failed. 17 British soldiers dead trying to take it. Churchill studies the position through binoculars. "We're going at night," he tells his men. "With what support, sir?" his sergeant asks. "None." "Sir, that's suicide." "Only if they see us coming." Churchill's plan is insane, but most of his plans are. Silent approach. No weapons fire until they're on the objective. Swords and knives only. His men think he's finally lost it completely, but they follow anyway, because Mad Jack always brings them home. September 15th, 1943, 11:30 p.m. Churchill leads 43 commandos up Point 270. Single file, complete silence. No equipment rattles, no talking, hand signals only. The approach takes 90 minutes. Crawling, climbing, moving inches at a time. At midnight, they reach the German perimeter. Churchill can see sentries. 3 Germans on watch, smoking cigarettes, talking quietly, bored, not expecting an attack at midnight. Churchill signals his men, "Hold position." He draws his sword, moves forward alone. 20 yards, 15 yards, 10 yards. The nearest German sentry never sees him coming. Churchill's blade enters his back between the shoulder blades, punches through to the heart. The man dies without a sound. Churchill lowers the body quietly, moves to the second sentry. Same technique, silent kill. The third sentry hears something, turns, sees Churchill, opens his mouth to shout. Churchill closes the distance in 2 steps, sword thrust through the throat. 3 sentries dead in 45 seconds. 0 noise. Churchill signals his men forward. They move into the German position, still silent. There's a command bunker. Churchill can hear voices inside. German officers, discussing positions, completely unaware. Churchill opens the door, walks in. 4 German officers look up, confused. A British officer standing there, holding a bloody sword. "Good evening, gentlemen," Churchill says in German. "You are my prisoners." One officer reaches for his pistol. Churchill's sword point is at his throat in 0.3 seconds. "I wouldn't," Churchill says calmly. The officer freezes. The 4 Germans surrender. Churchill's men secure them. The rest of the assault is methodical, position by position, silent kills where possible, quick firefights where necessary. By 1:30 a.m., Point 270 is in British hands. 42 German soldiers captured, including 1 major, 2 captains, and a lieutenant. British casualties, 0 dead, 2 wounded. The American and British commanders can't believe it. A fortified position captured with almost no casualties. "How did you do it?" they ask. Churchill just points to his sword. Still bloody. "Properly equipped, sir." The story spreads through Allied forces. Mad Jack captured an entire German position with a sword. The Germans hear the story too. They issue a warning to their troops. British commando officer armed with medieval weapons operating in Italy. Approach with extreme caution. Do not engage alone. They put a price on his head. 5,000 Reichsmarks, dead or alive, preferably dead, because capturing Mad Jack alive is considered too dangerous. Churchill hears about the bounty. He's flattered. May 1944, Yugoslavia. Churchill is now a lieutenant colonel, commanding No. 2 Commando. They're supporting Tito's partisans, fighting Germans in the mountains. The mission is going well, until it isn't. May 14th, 1944. Churchill's unit is ambushed. German paratroopers. They've been tracking the commandos, set a perfect trap. The firefight is brutal. Churchill's men are outnumbered 3-1. He's trying to organize a fighting retreat. Then a mortar round lands 5 feet away. The explosion throws Churchill 15 feet. He wakes up with Germans standing over him. His sword is gone. His bagpipes destroyed. He's wounded, bleeding, captured. Churchill is transported to Germany. Sachsenhausen concentration camp. This is where they send special prisoners, political prisoners, intelligence targets, high-value captures. Churchill is interrogated for weeks. The Germans want to know about commando tactics, British intelligence networks, special operations. Churchill tells them nothing, just his name, rank, and serial number. They threaten him, beat him, starve him. Churchill doesn't break, because he's already planning his escape. September 1944. Churchill has been a prisoner for 4 months. He's studied the camp routine, guard patterns, security procedures, weak points. There's a drainage tunnel under the wire, used for sewage, 2 feet wide, runs 200 yards outside the perimeter. Churchill and a British RAF officer named Ronald Baird plan their escape. They'll go through the tunnel at night, then walk 150 miles to the Baltic coast, steal a boat, sail to Sweden. It's completely insane. Perfect for Churchill. September 14, 1944. 11:30 p.m. Churchill and Baird enter the drainage tunnel. It's pitch black, full of sewage, freezing water. They crawl for 40 minutes, emerge outside the wire, covered in filth, but free. They start walking, east, toward the Baltic. They walk at night, hide during the day. No food, no water except from streams, no weapons, no map, just walking, day after day. The German countryside is full of troops, patrols everywhere. They avoid roads, stick to forests. After 8 days, they've covered 90 miles. Churchill is exhausted, starving. His wounds haven't healed, but he keeps moving. Then their luck runs out. September 22nd. They're spotted by a German patrol. Baird is shot trying to run, killed instantly. Churchill is recaptured, sent back, but not to Sachsenhausen, to Flossenbürg concentration camp. Even more secure, even more brutal. Churchill spends 6 months there. Winter 1944-1945. Frozen, starving, sick with dysentery. He should have died. Most prisoners did. But Churchill refuses to die, because the war isn't over yet, and he'll be damned if he misses the end. April 1945. Allied forces closing in. Germany collapsing. The SS starts evacuating camps. Churchill is forced on a death march. Prisoners walking toward Tyrol. No food, no water. Anyone who falls is shot. Hundreds die on the march. Churchill keeps walking, 1 foot in front of the other. On April 28, 1945, American forces intercept the column. The guards flee. The prisoners are liberated. Churchill walks up to the American commander, covered in lice, skeletal, barely alive. "Lieutenant Colonel Jack Churchill," he says, "British Army." "No, to Commando. I need to rejoin my unit." The American stares at him. "Sir, the war in Europe is over. Germany surrendered." Churchill is disappointed. "You mean I missed the end? That's what you're concerned about?" "Yes, I was hoping to kill more Germans." The American commander has no response, because Mad Jack Churchill is not normal, never has been, never will be. May 1945. Jack Churchill is evacuated to England, hospitalized, recovering from malnutrition, dysentery, and wounds. The doctors say he'll need months of recovery. Churchill discharges himself after 2 weeks, reports back to duty. "Where's my unit?" he asks. "Disbanded, sir. The war's over." "Not in the Pacific," Churchill says. "Sir, you just spent 10 months in Nazi concentration camps. You need rest. I need to fight." Churchill volunteers for Burma, the war against Japan. The British Army reluctantly accepts. He's sent to training in India, preparing for jungle warfare. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima is bombed. August 9, 1945. Nagasaki. August 15, 1945. Japan surrenders. Churchill is furious. "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks," he says, "we could have kept the war going another 10 years. His fellow officers think he's joking. He's not. Mad Jack Churchill genuinely loved war. Not the killing, the adventure, the chaos, the adrenaline, the absolute clarity of purpose. Peacetime bored him to suicide. War made him feel alive. After Japan surrendered, Churchill tried to find new conflicts. He volunteered for Palestine, fighting Jewish insurgents, led patrols. But it wasn't the same. small scale, police actions, not real war. In 1946, Churchill finally retired from the army. For good this time. He was 40 years old. What do you do when you've spent your entire adult life seeking adventure and suddenly there's no adventure left? Churchill became a teacher, taught military history at Australian military colleges. He was terrible at it, too restless, too energetic. He couldn't stand still long enough to teach. So he took up surfing at age 45 in Australia, one of the first people in Australia to ride a standing surfboard. He rode buses around Europe, bought a motorcycle at age 60, rode it across India, again, jumped out of planes, parachuting for fun. At age 65, he was still seeking the thrill, the edge, the feeling of being alive that only danger provided. Jack Churchill died in 1996, age 89, in a nursing home, surrounded by family, peacefully. The most boring death imaginable, for a man who lived the most exciting life possible. His obituaries barely mentioned his war record, because by 1996, nobody remembered. The last man to kill an enemy soldier with a longbow and sword, the man who captured 42 prisoners with medieval weapons, the man who survived 2 Nazi concentration camps, the man who escaped and walked 150 miles through occupied Germany, the man who played bagpipes during beach assaults. Forgotten. Because Mad Jack Churchill's story is so absurd that nobody believes it's real, but it is. Every word. Documented in military records, verified by witnesses, confirmed by German archives. One British officer really did fight World War II with a sword and bow, and he really did survive. Because Jack Churchill understood something profound. War isn't just about technology, it's about psychology. It's about fear. It's about making your enemy hesitate for 1 critical second. And nothing makes a man hesitate like seeing a screaming madman with a sword charging at him while bagpipes play in the background. The real story of Mad Jack Churchill isn't about medieval weapons. It's about refusing to be ordinary. Churchill lived in an age of mechanized warfare. Tanks, aircraft, machine guns, artillery. War had become industrial, efficient, cold. Churchill rejected that completely. If he was going to fight, he was going to fight on his terms, with honor, with style, with weapons that required skill, not just pulling a trigger. He once said, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." People thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Churchill genuinely believed that warfare should be personal, face to face, skill versus skill, not hiding behind technology. He proved it was possible. In an age of rifles, he killed with arrows. In an age of grenades, he killed with swords. In an age of radios, he communicated with bagpipes. And he was more effective than conventional soldiers, because he understood psychology. The Germans had trained for modern warfare. They knew how to fight men with rifles. They had no training for men with swords. Their tactical doctrine had no response. So they froze, hesitated, made mistakes, died. Churchill's methods worked because they were unexpected, irrational, impossible to plan against. How do you train soldiers to fight a madman with bagpipes? You don't. Jack Churchill fought 43 combat operations, led hundreds of men into battle, killed dozens of enemy soldiers, captured 42 personally. And his casualty rate among his men was lower than any other commando officer, because his psychological warfare kept enemies off balance, confused, unable to respond effectively. The lesson of Mad Jack Churchill isn't use medieval weapons. The lesson is be unpredictable, do what nobody expects, make your enemy's training irrelevant. Churchill loved war. He admitted it freely. If it wasn't for those damn Yanks and their atom bombs, we could have kept the war going another 10 years. He wasn't joking. He genuinely mourned the end of World War II, because peacetime bored him. And that's the tragedy. Men like Jack Churchill are only valuable during war. In peacetime, they're liabilities. Dangerous, unpredictable, unemployable. So they fade away. Teaching, surfing, riding motorcycles, looking for any thrill that approximates the clarity of combat. And then they die quietly, forgotten. Because the world doesn't remember warriors. It remembers generals, politicians, people who gave orders from safe rooms, not the madmen who charged into gunfire with swords. But Jack Churchill wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He didn't fight for glory. He fought because he loved it. And in his own words, any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. Mad Jack Churchill was always properly dressed.